Hey, what up, guys? Nicholas here. So today, me and my cat are going to walk you guys through the workflow of downloading Mixamo animations, specifically in Archer, bring them into Golem and export them out so that Golem can read them and we can use them in our simulations for crowd. There'll be a couple of animations that we'll be taking in, and we'll be blending, 2 or 3 different FBXs together. I think it was just going to be 2 FBXs together. And then go through with customizing a little bit their keyframes and also just checking or troubleshooting any errors that we might see when we bring them in. So yeah, let's get started. So in our example, we're going to be working with an archer. What the archer needs to do is get into this bow stance, because when you shoot a bow, you're going to be sideways. You're going to pull an arrow from your quiver, you're going to draw it back, and then you're going to let it go and shoot. So there are a lot of poses there that we're going to need to take advantage of, and we have a lot of them already done in this Pro Longbow pack from Mixamo. But we are going to break them down for Golem's behavior so that we can take advantage of the different, let's say, steps that we want. For instance, he wants to go into his bow stance, which is one step, and then his second step would be shooting, which would be pulling an arrow out of his quiver, drawing it back, and letting go. And this could happen multiple times, so he might draw 10 arrows or 3 arrows or 2 arrows before he goes back into his regular stance. So that's why we want to essentially create 2 animations out of this. We want to have the bow stance animation, and then we want to have the drawing of the arrow stance, drawing of the arrow and shooting the arrow as a completely different one. I don't know what's going on here, why it's not loading, but basically you just click this, click the pack. You can see it with the little papers underneath here. Click the view download thingy, which I've already done. It'll show up in your My Assets tab. You don't need the character, which is the beta. Actually, I think they include it anyways in the pack. Just go ahead and click on My Animations. You'll find all of the animations that are included in this pack. But what I want to do is just download them all anyways, because I know maybe someday down the road I'm going to want to use 1 or 2 of these. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit the pack right here. Click this guy. Cool. Of course I own this, but just type the Q download button and it will show up over here. It's going to ask you if you want it in FBX format, which we do, if you want it at 30 frames per second, which we do, and the T-pose and all that other stuff. So just hit OK for all of that, and now it'll show up here. It'll probably start queuing you in before it lets you download it, and then once it releases it to you, you can go ahead and click download for the file. Sorry, I have a mild cough, so I might cough here or there during this thing, but hopefully we can get through it without any major health issues. Sorry. So let's let that go. And what I like to do after you've installed Golem and the character pack for Golem, this is essentially the character pack's library. We have the characters, motions, shaders, textures, all that stuff. What I always do is create a temp folder, throw in all of the assets or whatever, the raw assets that I need to use before I can implement it into my workflow inside here. And then from there, when I start exporting textures, animations, models, whatever, they will go into the associated folders here later on. That way I can start expanding my library. And this temp folder essentially is something that I'll never point to, but it's something that I would just work under so I don't make it too messy in the very important folders, which are these ones here. Great, so my animations are done. Do I want to buy WinRAR? I'm gonna go ahead and say not today. So these are the FBXs. We'll just select them all. Don't don't download the beta file because we don't need to. This is the character. That's unimportant to us. So under temp, I'm gonna go ahead and create a new environment for my archer and just drag these FBXs in there. Close the WinRAR. And here we are. I'm not going to go through each one of them with you because I did do this already behind the scenes, so you're not going to see that. And I already know that the ones that I need is going to be this one, standing equipped bow, standing draw arrow, and standing aim recoil. So let's go ahead and jump into Maya. First thing you want to do is bring up the Archer folder with the FBXs and start with the first one, which is the first stance, going into the equipping bow. So here we are. He starts from this idle pose, which is an amazing starting point because he could be running before this, walking or whatever, and we always want to essentially be at this kind of pose for your first frame. And then he goes into the sideways pose because now you can tell his body is facing this way. It might mess with Golem's direction and whatnot. So it's great that we have this animation to start us off with the archer. You want to start with 0, and you want to figure out how many frames there are. If you go here, you'll realize it's in between 21 and 22, and this is an error on my part. We need to go into Maya setting and make sure it's not on 24 frames per second. Make sure it's on 30 because we downloaded it at 30, or we asked Mixamo to give it to us at 30 frames per second. So now you'll see that each key will land on its associated frame, and 27 is going to be the magic number for us. Boom. So make sure your time slider is at this, because it's going to be important for baking the simulation or exporting simulation that your time slider does have the exact same number of keyframes that is required in the animation. What we want to do, and actually this is what I always do, is I select the root joint. I go into your mel command here and type select -hierarchy, HI. This essentially selects every single joint in here so that you can see everything is selected, and I just want to bake these keyframes because, you know, sometimes some of these keys might be in between, or maybe somewhere you make some adjustments to it, you somehow forgot that it's like in between. I don't know. For a clean environment, what you want to do is just bake them all and make sure that every single key is landing on a actual frame and not in between, so we're not missing any of them. So once that's done, we're pretty happy. We're going to go into the Golem tab. Bring in your character maker, excuse me, and the first thing that we need to do before we can start exporting motions is tell Golem exactly what kind of skeleton we're working with. This is of course a biped, but there are so many different kind of bipeds with different kind of joints and number of things depending on how many, you know, usually the spine might have more or less, but Mixamo does a very standard you know, hierarchy for the skeleton. But Golem doesn't use that exact same one, especially the naming convention is a little bit different. So it doesn't know exactly where everything goes, and this is where we're going to be creating the Golem character file so that every time we want to bring in a Mixamo character animation, we just load that Golem character file and then we can export the animation. So for now it's going to take a little bit of time just to give us this character file, which means we have to go into this character tab, load the selected skeleton, which is selected as this one. Sorry, I have to select the hips. At that point I had the whole hierarchy selected. Just load it in. It knows that the up axis is Y, the front axis is going to be Z. Excuse me. Great, everything is loaded in, but it still doesn't know what it is, so we're just going to go and auto-compute the skeletal mapping because we don't want to go through each joint and figure out what it's supposed to be. This usually does a very good job, especially for biped characters, actually only biped characters. Quadrupeds too, but custom characters for sure won't understand. Now we want to take a look at what Golem's done here. So Golem has created kind of like an overview of how it's going to interpret all of these joints. It's doing an amazing job. Actually, the joint-wise, everything is perfect, but the up vectors or the direction that these joints are supposed to be bending in is what's very important because sometimes he never gets it right. So these planes are pointing in this direction, which means that the knee should be bending in this direction, which is completely correct. This is correct. This elbow is pointing in that direction, which is correct. It should be bending in that direction. But this elbow you can see is a bit wrong. It's like as if it's bending in and he'll be breaking his elbow backwards, which is kind of gross. I don't want to think about that. Okay, stop thinking about that. I'm done. I'm not going to think about that. We need to fix that. Here is the right arm, which is this arm that we're looking at, and we basically have to switch the button until it points in the right direction, which it does. We're pretty much good, except for the fingers. The thumb is correct. It should be, as if you're making a fist, the thumb goes inwards, so yes, this should be pointing outwards, but these guys don't flutter that way. That's weird. They're actually supposed to be going downwards, so let's go ahead and press these buttons. Let's press these buttons until we get that. Okay, that looks great. So that looks good. Let's go to the other side here and press these buttons again until they're pointing upwards. Sorry, I wasn't really looking. There we go. So negative Z. I mean, I can barely, can you guys see? Does that say X or? Yeah, Z. God, it's so tiny. Maybe it's my eyes. Man, I'm getting old. You know, when you start getting old and your knees don't work the way. Okay, anyways, so that should be good. I'm very happy here. And so we don't have to do this every single time we want to export a Golem animation, or sorry, a Mixamo animation. We're going to go ahead and save this character file. We're never going to use this for Golem because we're not going to load a Mixamo character file. We don't actually have a Mixamo character, but we're going to load it to create the template for Golem to understand the animations that are going to be happening on these joints that get exported to Golem's skeleton. So we'll save this. I've already done it before, but I'm just going to save over to Mixamo GCHA, which is Golem character. CHA stands for character. And now we're ready to export the motion. So in your motion tab, go ahead and select those hips again. And now we're ready to go. Just click load motion from skeleton. Right? Does an amazing job because it already knows we made that character file. It already knows which joints should be which, and as you can see, it's following exactly the way it needs to follow. Go ahead and compute the footprints for good measure, and hey, we're done. Save this motion file. So this is no longer a temp file. This is actually a motion that we've extended our library to, which is amazing. We can always reference this one. So what I'm going to do, since it's just strictly for archers, I'm going to make an archer folder, and I'm going to save this as archer equip. Is it equip or equipped? That silent T always gets me. I'm going to go ahead and remove the silent T's because I don't like silent letters. Equip bow. It sounds weird. Equipped bow. Oh, whatever. Okay, so we've exported that GCHA file. Let's go ahead and open up the other ones. Like I said, we need aim recoil for the second one, and we need draw arrow for the third one. So I want to show you what this is. Standing aim recoil, he's already got his bow extended and an arrow inside his thingy. I don't know what that area is called, but he lets go of it and he starts normal. So this is actually going to be our second animation. Our first animation after he equips it is going to be the draw arrow, obviously, because we need more ammo for the killing. Okay, cool. So here he is. He draws the arrow, and then from there we can actually shoot it. But we don't need this as a separate animation and then the shooting as a separate animation, because that's ideal. I mean, that's going to be 3 different motion files, GMO files, that we're going to be using for a simulation. We don't want to just throw those in the stream in the behavior nodes. So what we're going to do is have the equip bow as the first animation, because we're only going to do that once, and then we're going to shoot the arrow multiple times, whether it's 5 times or 10 times, because he might be just like in his super ready to whoop some butt stance and then shoot 100 arrows. You know, because you can hold 100 arrows in your quiver, obviously, maybe in CG world. So let's go ahead and let's say this is going to be our base file for the animation, which is going to be this, and we just want to bring in the other animation here at the end of this, which is the shooting of it, so that ideally he'll just loop, you know, like this, pulling it, shooting, pulling it, shooting, pulling it, shooting. So first thing we need to do is take the keys from the other one. Let's go ahead and find the other file. Open it up. We need every single key, so I'm going to go ahead and type the magic command, which is select hierarchy. Go to the end frame here, 21. Some keys might not be baked, so what I want to do for good measure is just bake the whole thing. So now we have let's just look it up the graph editor. Just make sure everything is keyed, which it is. I'll go ahead and select everything. Since I have every joint selected and every key selected, I should ideally have every animation selected. Go to edit, keys, copy that key. Copy those keys, sorry, it's plural. We'll open up the draw arrow animation, because that's the shooting arrow animation, which is this one. We'll go ahead and jump into, sorry, I'm having clicking problems. Jumping into the hip root joint, extend our time slider. So now we can probably just paste it in here and then drag it over later. But before we do that, again, those Maya is very particular with when bringing keys in for specific objects or joints or whatever. So everything kind of has to match. We know definitely the skeleton matches, especially the names of them. But with this, we don't know if the keyframes are all there. So again, I'm going to bring this down to 31, and I'm going to bake the simulation. The simulation. I'm so used to saying bake the simulation. No, we're going to bake the bake the animations. Just so that we have every single keyframe we need, and when we paste it in there, if like this joint never moved, at least there's a key right here and it can move for the remainder animation, and it knows to start from there and it doesn't offset it from the beginning. So that might all sound complicated, which it kind of is, but it doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and just make sure everything is selected. We'll just jump over here, over here, and then click edit key and paste the keys. And there you go. You can see these new keys coming up here. So if I look at my animation, let me just do that. There you are. So you have the pulling and the shooting. So obviously we don't want this gap. We're just gonna hold shift, select these keys and bring it in, which is, ideally the same thing as, honestly, I hate to just like do separate ways or showing you how to do things different way. I'm just going to do it my way, and then you guys can figure the rest out. So that's what I do. I just bring it over. Say it's 53 frames now, and this is going to be our animation. Boom. Boom. Who wants some? You? Does this zombie want some? You? Do you want some? You? I'm Robin Hood. Okay, no. So we're done. We're very happy here. We have all the keys. But maybe these archers actually... maybe these archers actually aren't shooting other humans that are like on this path straight forward. Maybe they're those archers that sit back and shoot up in the air and arcs down. People, those sniping archers that are behind the wall that are shooting it up and then killing those soldiers that are on the ground. So, he's going to want to be, maybe from this joint, he's going to want to be kind of like that, pointing up like that. So what we're going to need to do is kind of manipulate those keys so that he's shooting up in the air and over. Obviously, this is very difficult with baked keyframes. So what we're going to do, and this is a very limited kind of adjustment that we're going to make in this case, is just kind of offset this rotation to something like that when he reaches, this point. Obviously, we can't just make a key, like that. Let's say I do something like that. He's going to be like, blip, which is wrong. So let me undo that. Cool. So if we look at exactly which attribute it is, it's going to be the rotate Z going up. So if we look at it here, rotation Z kind of does go up a little bit. But we want it to go up when he draws. So like at this point, that's when he should be aiming up, shoots it, and then we want to go back down because we need to come back down to like something like this. So he shoots it, and then it goes back down. So I think this is a nice starting point. Like maybe around here to here, shoots it, and then it goes all the way back down to there. Yeah. So something like that. So this is the area that we kind of want to change and kind of offset it upwards, but we don't want to just move it all. Is it up? Let's see if it's up. Let's go to that key. So this is the frame. Yeah, it will be going upwards. We don't want to just offset it up. We kind of want to ease it in there. So lattice is our friend. This guy here is going to let us manipulate these keys without messing too much and making it look too unnatural. We'll just drag this and make sure it's straight, and kind of bring it upwards like that. And you can see his arms moving up, but nearly not enough. But you can see these keys actually are doing a good job of kind of offsetting it without making it look weird, except for maybe here. So we might have to tweak that a little bit. This place looks okay. So let's look. Like this guy is not nice. So I'm going to move it up a bit, and maybe that's a better starting point. So if I select, if I select these guys again, maybe like that. Excuse me. Let's see where we are. We're here. We got to go a lot higher. So I'll go ahead and hit the lattice thing again. Bring it up. to like, wow, it's got to go like up all the way. Man, I can't see anything. Let's just bring it up all the way up. Let's bring it up all the way up to here. Okay, this should do it. Oh no. Okay, I went way too high. No, what have I done? Undo, undo. Okay, we're looking at some degrees here. Let's go like just to 100 something, right? Okay. So we go up and up and up. Cool. Would have been smart if I had this up the whole time so I could actually see. See, this is why I should not be animating. I'm horrible at keyframes. Okay, that looks pretty good. It's shooting way high. It's like, boom. It goes back down. So what is this jolt right here? That jolt is way too high, and that's this guy here. So let's just go ahead and bring those down. Maybe like that. Boom. So that's kind of natural. He's like, dish. There's a little bit of a glitch here. So maybe we want to fix that. We can always bring these up. Kind of even these out. And actually, I could probably just delete these frames, honestly, just to make it even. Boom. Okay, that's good, right? He's like, But this jump is way too high. So maybe it should be a little bit a little bit slower, which means we can just delete some of these keyframes. So it goes up, boom. Cool. Great. So we're there, but look what happened to our time slider. It's a mess. So what we're gonna wanna do is type select hierarchy. I mean, essentially we only moved that one, but I like to just select all of the joints, and we're gonna go ahead and bake the keys, which is basically the simulation. And this should make everything align, and now we're pretty much as if we brought this straight from Mixamo. So everything looks good. We have two animations together. We've altered one of them a little bit, and we've got this animation. Boom. Cool, so let's export this. We'll bring up Golem's character maker again. Now, we can't just jump into motion. We're gonna need to go to character, and we're gonna, instead of loading that same skeleton in, we've already saved it out, remember? So this is the Mixamo GCHA file. Load it in. We've got everything sorted out already. We don't have to worry about nothing. Go into motion, select the root joint, and type load motion. And let's take a look. Looks cool. There's a little bit of drag, but I think it's fine. I mean, I think this is going to work for us. Cool. And good measure, compute the footprints, and save this out. Now we have our archer who shoots arrow. Excuse me. Okay, we're done here. We have now a motion for equipping bow and shooting an arrow. So let's try them out. We'll go ahead and start with a new scene. First thing we need to do is throw in a terrain. Next is an entity. Obviously the entity is going to be an archer, which I actually don't know if we've created. Let's bring them in. I was following one of Golem's tutorials, and actually Golem has an amazing resource for tutorials, so you guys should check them out. But I was following one of the tutorials, and I might have skipped that step of creating an actual archer. So let's see. If I bring in the characters and I bring in my fortress soldier, do we have an archer? No, we do not. Okay, we're gonna need to quickly create one. So inside your character maker, we're gonna load the fortress soldier. Cool. Bring in the geometry tab, sorry. And these are my render types. Wow, there's a lot. We're gonna make one for the archer. Cool. So the archer will have all the armor, all the braces, no swords, no shields. Facial hair, I don't think archers usually have facial hair. These are the grunts, so okay, whatever, I'll keep them. Spears, nah. Helmet's fine, helmet's fine. Bow, this is what we want. So we'll go for a double bow, we'll go for a simple bow, and we want empty to be 0 because all of them need to have some sort of bow. We definitely need a quiver. Actually, let's just set this to 100. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be 100 for this because we have this at 0 and it's the only attribute that's in there, so it's fine. Set this to 0. Oh no! What have I done? I was working on the defender. How did I do that? Sorry, let me load it again. Bring everything down. Again. That was annoying. So here, under the archer, armor is up, braces up, swords off, shield off, facial hair is on. Sorry, that's just funny to me. Helmet's off, bow is on, but empty is off, quiver is on, empty is off, sword is off. There you go, so you have the archer. Cool, let's just go ahead and save this. So we've only, I'm safe to just save this Fortress Soldier file, save over it, because all we did was create a new render type. We can always remove it later if we don't want to, but this essentially adds more to your library, so let's just go ahead and keep it. So now if you go ahead and, just not save, that was probably the older one. The character maker puts this locator in here. We can just delete that, it's not important. It's more for graphical representation. So back to where we were, the entity type, load that Fortress Soldier in, and now in the render attributes, let's remove everything. Let's bring in the new archer. So now we should have our archer as the entity. Display is going to be the render previs, and the next thing we're going to do is need to populate this scene. So what we'll do is, sorry. Okay, so what we'll do is hit this button. I always like to bring up the tools and then whatever, I'll just draw like a little rectangle for them. Cool, just bump this up a bit. Yeah, no. Okay, something like this. New particle system, we don't have any crowd fields yet, so we'll just keep it new and make sure the entity is there, which of course it is. Create and play. Awesome. So if we look at them, you can see that they all have the bow, and they're really bright. I'm so used to the orange, and that's only because viewport 2.0 is on. Just go back to the legacy. Cool. Let's throw these motions in because obviously we're only doing this so that we can check these animations out. So we'll drop them into our behavior editor. The first one, of course, is going to be equipping the bow, or equipping, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Cool. So for this node, we obviously don't want it to loop, we just want it to play once. Awesome. I always like to do this random thing, but this will obviously not work in our case because he's always got the bow on his left hand. So, you know, some of these guys, like this one here, is ready to shoot in this direction, but he doesn't have a bow. So we'll just keep it like that. Cool. Start percentage and end is 0. Usually I like to mess with this a bit to keep it a little bit natural, but if we do something like that, some of these guys will go from a T-pose straight to, let's say, the end of the animation. That's wrong. We want to see those little steps in there. And finally, let's throw in the shooting. Shoots arrow. Cool. And this is going to be on loop. Now it's not going to, I'll show you. We're going to hit play, and then it's basically going to actually not even past this point because our trigger is actually set to false. And we just have to put that true so that it can just pass through. So let's go ahead and do that now. So when you double click on this, it opens up the trigger editor, and inside here, we'll just set that to true. So now it's going to pass through, but it's still not going to work. It's just going to go straight over. It's going to read this, but it's going to also read the trigger and say, hey, there's nothing that's delaying me. Let me just move right on to this one. and that's not what we want. So what we need to do is just hold here until the animation is done. And what I like to do is just drop this guy in here, and I won't even use this. We'll just set this as the root and say at the end of this animation, which is 100%, move on to the next one. So he steps and then he shoots. Awesome. Great. So it's a good thing that we tested this out, because you can see there's quite a few errors here. First thing is if we want to be really anal about it, they should be shooting in this direction, but they're just like, I don't know, 20 degrees that way. So we can always just offset the orientation so that they're facing this way. Actually, it's more like 45 degree. Why did it feel... Oh, okay, because he rotates over. Yeah, it's about 20 degrees over this way. That's really easy. We're just going to throw in a parallel operator. Let me just full screen that. Drop these guys out. Bring this in. Bring him in. Bring him next to it. It's going to create a container. And this is the orientation node. So we'll just run that in parallel. And for that, down here, you can just offset. I believe that's X. Definitely not Y. So it's definitely X, maybe 45 degrees. I don't know if it's in the negative or positive. Quite honest, I never know. Okay, we went the wrong way. Let's go negative 45, maybe. Cool. So actually that looks perfect, but I think when he puts it up, yeah, now we overshot a little bit. Negative 35. Let's try that. Negative 25. Negative 22. All right, negative 20. Okay, that's fine. I'm not even gonna mess with that anymore. So yeah, it obviously doesn't do it in the actual animation or the keyframes in the animation, so it might feel a bit like it's sliding. But I think the timing of it is perfect. It's like when he steps, that's when the rotation happens. And yeah, everything's good. So that's cool. Another technical problem here is check out his legs. They kind of like bounce up and down after each loop as well. In the beginning, he's going to start at the T, and then it's just going to go like that. So you'll get that kind of interpolation. But the thing is what's happening is when it's looping through this animation, or even transitioning from this animation to this animation, it's like a blend, like a 50-50 blend, or even like a 40-40 blend. So there's that percentage in the middle where you see that T-pose showing through, and that's why the feet will naturally go down and actually towards the middle. So we're just going to go ahead and remove that blend, because we know that these two animations from, the end of the frame and the beginning of this keyframe should be the same. So it's safe to just remove the blend, which means select the motion for this one. Look at the end of it, which is the starting and stopping duration attributes. Here it's at 0.4. We're just going to turn that off. So basically it cuts right to the next one. And here it's going to try to blend in, which we don't want. We'll just go to 0 as well. So now there shouldn't be an issue. Cool. It's still doing this bouncing effect, but at least it's not moving in. It's not trying to go to the T-pose. And just so that we don't have the T-pose in the beginning, I'm going to remove the blend in the beginning of the starting animation here. So now it should just cut right into that, yeah. So you don't even see the T-pose anymore. Boom. Cool. So this actually is the final step. I think that's the only thing we'll have to do. This bobbing action. And this actually shows how important computing footsteps is. Or sorry, footprints? Footprints or footsteps? Footprints, yeah. That's how important those are, especially from walking or crawling or whatever. You kind of have to make sure, like let's say for crawling with his hands, he should be calculating his hands instead of his feet. In this case, we got to calculate his left and right feet because we got to get him grounded and not moving up and down. So when I exported the motion, we literally just hit compute footprints, and I don't think that we hit the left leg or the right leg. So let's go ahead and make sure you have your equip bow loaded in. left leg, right leg, and make sure this is set to automatic. Compute, save. Let's open up the shoots arrow. Same deal, because he's standing up. Make sure that's automatic. Compute, save. Okay, cool. So I'm pretty sure this is gonna, yeah. Well, actually, sliding a little bit. Not nearly as much, and it might actually be in the keyframes. We'd have to take a look at the actual joints, whatever. But that's the workflow, and that's exactly what should have happened. Let me go ahead and delete this. You can remove that character maker locator. It shows up every time you bring this guy up and load in something. You see, that's not important for us right now. Yeah, but that should be it. Any other kind of movement and stuff that should be cleaned up in the animation. Or just fine-tuning it just so that it doesn't slide around so much. And what I like to do also, and actually this will probably help out with the motion because everyone is synchronized with that, and this isn't part of the tutorial or anything, but I like to just, you know, to make it a little bit natural, change the speed of them just a little bit, even the starting, why not? Give that a little speed variation, because variety is always good. Cool. And there they go, shooting away. All right, that's it. Well, I hope you guys learned stuff, and let me know if anything that you wanted to ask, or this is one of my first tutorials and hopefully not my last. I'd like to make more, but yeah, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for sticking around. My cat says hi. I don't know if you heard that. But goodbye, so long.